Hello again and welcome back to another one, and today we have a couple of topics to cover, from one that shows that during the Slim Shady vs Marshall skit, Slim Shady wasn't entirely wrong when he made this statement about Eminem's career.
Would you think it was just some sort of coincidence that I popped through that portal and dropped Houdini and poof, all of a sudden magically Eminem's back on top? I've been sent from the past to save our career.
To save my career, my 25-year career, where I sold like 1 billion albums.
And we are talking about US radio, where Eminem's been getting a beatdown for decades, since it is no secret that he's had a turbulent relationship with radio in the US since the beginning of his career, and perhaps the classic song Stan suffered the most from this. But today we have more that shows Houdini has ended a 10-year drought, and also a drought that's roughly 20 years old for Eminem, and we'll expand on this in a bit as we have more when it comes to milestones for the rapper, this time linked to his previous album Music to Be Murdered By. Today we also have more that shows Drake is struggling to catch a break when it comes to his music reception on social media from hip-hop fans and also hip-hop media personalities. And today we have more on this from hip-hop media exec Elliott Wilson, who recently went off on Drake over the quality of his newer songs since the battle with Kendrick. More on this in a moment. And today we also have more from the recent interview between Joe Budden and Lil Yachty, as Yachty successfully set up Joe Budden in the interview and made him eat some crow, as you'd see in a bit. And spoiler alert, this is about that infamous interview from over 7 years ago when Joe Budden was projecting his own failures on Yachty.
I'm happy every day.
That is bullshit, and I refuse to have somebody tell me bullshit.
My nigga, chill.
Yeah, hold up.
Damn.
And Lil Yachty sneakily brought up this infamous interview, and Budden was forced to admit he was wrong with his assessment early on, and we'll get to this later. And starting with the latest for Eminem, this time Godzilla from Music to Be Murdered By just hit a new milestone on Spotify. Check it out. Godzilla by Eminem featuring Juice WRLD has now surpassed 1.5 billion streams on Spotify. It is Eminem's 7th and Juice's 3rd song to achieve this. And clearly, as the days go by, it is becoming even more difficult for the crowd who claimed Eminem hasn't had a hit since 2002. Mind you, this was coming from self-proclaimed hip-hop heads on social media platforms like Twitter. And moving on, after UMG, quote, forced Drake to officially release the 3 new songs that he included in that 100 gigs drop, these songs have opened to mixed reviews from fans. In fact, takes like this blew up a few hours ago. Drake's team is failing at the recovery attempts, partially because he's in a 720 deal and the other is ego. They don't recognize that people are actually tired of him and that he needs to take a legitimate break from music and the public eye. And hip-hop media exec Elliott Wilson continues to break character as he recently went off on Drake for the quality of the songs he's released after the battle with Kendrick. Check out a snippet.
And then you're doing 3 songs at the same time. So what's the messaging here?
He's really
you presenting me new music that you stand on, and then I'm getting all your gigabytes. Like that's a mixed message. Then the 3 songs aren't great songs. Yeah. They're not in my feelings, nonstop, and mob ties. And that's the kind of shit you have to do when you're coming back after losing a battle. That's what you did last time with Scorpion. What the fuck are you doing with these? Like, Lotto sounds better than you in one of the joints.
Damn.
Atlanta, you're running to everything you're doing is what the guy said you were gonna do. I like the singing Drake. I like the melody Drake. You run to Atlanta. Atlanta features. I know you said that's his circle and all that shit. We'll get to that. But why are you playing into every single thing the guy said to try to one-up him when the content's not on the same level? These aren't bad records, but it's not a free pack of ass. But those aren't the level of the pivot post-Scorpion of how to get your shit back. Nigga, I don't understand what he's doing. It's fucking heartbreaking. I'm pissed.
Now, to be fair, Drake remains the most streamed rapper by far on Spotify in 2024, but it is also objectively correct to say that all of the songs released after the Kendrick battle have all failed to catch on like his older material before the battle. The numbers are certainly falling short, but we will keep an eye out for the latest releases to see if this changes the tide, although the first day numbers on Spotify were less than you'd expect for a Drake release. Its app featuring Young Thug and 21 Savage opened at number 56 with 2 million streams, and Blue Green Red at number 188 with 1.26 million streams on global Spotify. Thoughts? And moving on, Eminem's Houdini has broken the drought for Eminem on US radio across formats, and according to the latest report, check this out, Eminem's Houdini is officially #1 on this week's published US rhythmic radio chart, becoming his first song since 2013, The Monster, to do so. Congratulations, Eminem. Oh, but it gets better for him when it comes to his record on US pop radio. Eminem's Houdini is officially top 10 on this week's published US pop radio chart, becoming his 12th song to do so. It is his first solo top 10 entry on the chart since 2004. Just lose it. Congratulations, Eminem. And just so you know, US radio has been his toughest format for obvious reasons, as he's been dominating other formats like sales and streams, and this sparked reactions like Eminem with a big radio hit in the year 2024. Houdini is really that song. And remember, when it comes to global charts, don't forget that Houdini remains the biggest rap/hip-hop song so far released in 2024. It hit #1 on the official singles chart in 13 countries. And while some of you may have forgotten, but perhaps word got to Eminem that the narrative on social media after Music to Be Murdered By dropped was that he needed Juice WRLD to get a hit and he wouldn't be able to get one solo at his age. I'm not saying Eminem took it personal.
I took offense to that. You're gonna high five, talk trash. Now I had a bone to pick with you. It became personal with me.
But at least that narrative will cease to exist moving forward. And moving on, before we get to Joe Budden getting set up by Lil Yachty, it is good to see that hip-hop media is finally discussing what many rap fans have been pointing out in recent years when it comes to social media hype and the real-world numbers for rappers when it comes to touring. And this was brought up on the Joe Budden podcast, and thankfully, Joe Budden's co-host was well informed on this subject matter. He bodied it. Check out a snippet.
Like, even social media, like people are able, like they're able to support more things now compared to back then. So like, I think that's why stadiums are getting filled once an artist gets popular.
Say what now?
I think that's why stadiums are getting filled once an artist gets popular because...
Arenas.
Arenas, not stadiums.
Arenas, I'm sorry.
I think it's the opposite. The exact opposite. Social media got their heads inflated, so they go and say, hey, look, you did these kind of numbers on the internet, so let's go book you a an arena tour, and then that shit goes on sale, and then they look and be like, uh-oh, something wrong here. We have to cancel. We got to come up with an excuse and move dates and all of this type of shit. Because that's happening more than people actually selling out. So everybody can't go across the country and sell out.
Very few people can.
50 did it. Legacy acts. Even though Nicki's doing current. Chris Brown does it every time. Travis can do it. Shit, Future and Metro was just having a problem, and they tour just started. Sexy Red, one of the hottest acts out there, having a problem.
I think because of the internet, and artists skip the small steps, or they skip skip the regional, skip the local, skip. We had to do so much back in the day.
This goes back to ego. Today, especially, certain artists, JT. When JT announced her tour, it was clubs. They tried to kill her for that. But the flip side to that is if JT would have went and said, yo, we hot right now, let's go get an arena tour and it flopped everywhere, they'd have killed her for that.
She did what the fuck
she did what she was supposed to do. Now you set you a bar.
And speaking on Joe Budden, he recently gave props to Lil Yachty after a setup question, as though people may have forgotten how salty Joe Budden used to be before his podcast took off. Yachty clearly didn't forget, as he experienced it firsthand nearly 8 years ago, and so he sneakily dropped a reminder during their latest interview. And I'd argue that this is a moment in the past that Joe Budden would prefer the world forgot about. And as you'd see, Joe Budden was forced to eat crow. Check out some snippets from a Safe Place podcast.
Let me ask you, did you think I was gonna last this long?
No.
I know you didn't.
Not at all. Are you shitting me? You have defied the odds. I ain't even about to lie to you.
About how long did you think?
I didn't think you would be this good, because you got your last album. Hell no, I didn't think you'd be able to do that.
I'll take it.
I didn't think you'd be able to pen some of the things that you've penned.
Fair enough.
This is real Safe Place stuff right here.
Like, no matter what your backing is, you kind of stand alone. You've created your own lane.
Fair enough.
I can't be prouder of you. That was my very first interview, the one that you speak of.
Yeah.
That was my very first interview with an artist.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow, this makes so much sense now.
Ever.
That makes so much sense.
That's why it's not one of my proudest moments.
And just in case you missed it, this is what Joe Budden is not proud of. Check out a snippet from Complex from nearly 8 years ago.
I'm happy every day because life is moving in such a positive way, I can't get slowed down.
So maybe he has been media trained. You are happy 24/7. That is bullshit, and I refuse to have somebody tell me bullshit.
When you come from a college dorm room with no money, you ain't getting no play with no girls, no clothes, you have no car, and you come to having 4 cars, millions of dollars, $500,000 on your body just to wear, any kind of clothes you want, any hoes you want, how could you be upset?
Because I don't think that's where your values lie. And I don't want this to come off like old nigga man shit.
But it is. It is.
Tell me what you want from hip hop.
I don't know. I mean,
you don't think that's a question you should answer at some point?
What do I want from hip hop? Nah, I mean, I'm making music, bro. I'm just having fun.
You're gonna have a problem with just having fun in 5 years.
What did you want from hip hop?
You're gonna have a big problem with just having.
Yeah,
you don't sound like you very aware with what's going on.
What do you want me to say? You want me to say?
I want you to be aware of your business. I want you to know whether you're in a 360 or not. I want you to appreciate the culture that changed your life. I want you who's well-spoken and articulates himself well.
My nigga. Chill.
Clearly, Joe Budden was coming from a place of bitterness. That was when he was a walking, talking pillar of salt. So he was projecting his failures on Yachty at that time and masking it as advice. And this is a recurrent point when you check out the comments from that video. I just turned 22 years old. I'm just now starting college in the military and still not sure exactly what I'm doing. Looking back, it is insane that Joe expected a 19-year-old just starting in the business to have every single answer. He was clearly bitter, but disguised it as tough love. But on topic of Yachty getting props from Joe Budden today, personally I was shocked when I found out Yachty was writing for Drake, including verses. But over to you guys, share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.